All right, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills supporting cast. I want to talk about how they could potentially play this next season, and really, can they help out Josh Allen? I don't want the season to be too Josh Allen dependent. So let's talk about the supporting cast, the receivers, and the offensive line. Some potential concerns I have, while also some upside as well. First, let's just look at the list of wide receivers that they currently have on the roster, and then we'll watch some film of those guys and get into all of it. But right now, starting off, Stephon Diggs, who's obviously awesome. Put a pin in that. We'll get to it in a second. But the Diggs and Davis duo is something that at times has been great. Like, I think about this play, really, that first game with the Rams, against the Rams, where they kind of, sort of rained on the championship parade a little bit, as obviously, Rams were very much high off of just winning a Super Bowl. It really came down, kind of was maybe a sign of things to come for the Rams that season. But anyway, this is going to be a one-on-one matchup with Gabe Davis on the outside. And watch what happens. Watch how when this play begins, you're going to see, despite that insane separation and how far off the defensive back covering Davis was, you see Davis start to cut towards the middle. The safety has been taken away by another receiver, and at this point, it's a one-on-one matchup, and Davis is open. As you see, Davis is going to be able to track the ball down. Allen makes a good throw, and they're able to get a big completion. And at times, we have seen Davis be a true outside threat. We haven't seen it consistently enough for us to feel great about him as a number two, because again, that's what you want out of a number two, right? The number one is a guy you have to double team. The number two is a guy who, if you don't double team, he can beat you, right? And I think for Davis, he's someone who, I don't know if we've quite seen him be that guy consistently, but we have seen him be that guy. And it would be so huge if he was, because then teams would have to completely start playing different coverages. They'd have to do stuff like this, which the Kansas City Chiefs are going to do, which is it's going to be a cover 2 zone that the Chiefs are in. It actually looks like Tampa 2 zone is what they're actually doing. But what's going to happen is you have, Stephon Diggs running about. It's going to try to get just sort of past the players covering the middle of the field, but just underneath the safety. Due to the 2 safety deep coverages, you now kind of know where the bubbles are going to be, and you can have your best players run in that direction. Watch how when this play begins, you see that Davis is, again, there's a window right here. Josh Allen sees him, and he's going to look up and say, okay, let's see if we can make this happen. As you see, Allen is going to hit Diggs. Diggs makes the catch and even stays on his feet. Almost looked a little bit like the Minneapolis Miracle there for a second. Picks up a decent chunk play. And if you force teams into coverages, Josh Allen is going to thrive. Like, he's going to be awesome in this situation, and Diggs is going to thrive in those situations. So a big part of this offense and how things could really work is just as simple as if Gabe Davis ends up being that true number 2 guy that we've seen, consistently, that we've seen flashes of, that could be great. Going back to what that receiving core was for a second, the other 3 guys who I put on the list, you have Khalil Shakir, who I don't have any plays for him, but I thought showed some flashes in year 1 as well. Young player, but could he be a good number 3? I think there's possibility of it. You also have Trent Sherfield, who I really like as kind of a 4th option. He was someone who, for Miami, seemed like he consistently would come up with some big plays when attention was getting taken off of him and onto other players. So I kind of always like those types of signings when you have someone who couldn't really get a ton of playing time in playing for a good team, and so because of that, never really got a chance to thrive. But maybe here in a new situation, you could turn him into a very good wide receiver, because he has shown some flashes. And then Justin Shortner, he was just a 5th round pick who they kind of took a flyer on, but who knows what can happen there. However, you might be saying, wait a second, these are the wide receivers, but that's not all the passing game is. I mean, obviously there's offensive line and quarterbacks, but there's also tight ends. There's also, I guess you could also throw running backs on there. James Cook can maybe do some stuff, but really, there's also tight ends who can come in and make a play. And the main guy, while they did just draft Dalton Kincaid in the 1st round, okay, he could definitely come through, but you also have someone else. Going over here, this is going to be a Dawson Knox play, and a very good one, where it's going to be against Miami, interestingly enough. And the way this play is designed to work is you have, it's really going to be a wide receiver runs a deeper route to get the corner who's covering deep. It's actually a cover 2 zone, not a cover 3 zone. It looks like a cover 3 zone, but it's a bit of a disguise. You have the a wide receiver kind of take away the deep safety, and then Dawson Knox is going to kind of run into a bubble underneath the safety, but past the players covering the middle of the field. And look at how when this play begins, you see how he runs this route very well. He gets to his spot very quickly. And so while Miami kind of is going to read this actually pretty quickly, it doesn't matter. There's a window here. And Josh Allen, what did I say? He can win in these situations. As you see, Allen is going to make a very accurate throw, and they do, in fact, pick up a decent chunk play, and Knox doesn't even go down right away, as they pick up even more yards than just that, and they are able to get a decent chunk play. So, you have Kincaid and you have Knox. They should be okay for those, number 3 options, whether it's Khalil Shakir taking the next step, Trent Sherfield taking the next step, or you just lean to the tight ends in those situations. You really should be fine there. I think that the receiving core, while I can definitely see some concerns, I see some positives here as well, and I'm maybe not as concerned on it about it as some other people might be, with the exception of if Davis comes through and is at number 2. I think that's still where there's a bit of a weakness right now is, can Davis be a true number 2? As for the offensive line, this is where I have a bit more concerns, where what you see on the screen is each projected offensive line member, again, these things are subject to change, and it happens all the time where one report says one guy is going to start, another report says another guy is going to start. So I work with what I have here. Feel free to, if you think someone else will start somewhere, let me know in the comments below. But also the number I put towards the right of each of these players, that is the where they ranked in terms of Pro Football Focus grade at their respective positions. So not a ton of high numbers. I mean, the best is Dion Dawkins, who is the 24th rated tackle, and I like Dion Dawkins. I think he's a good player. Mitch Morse was also the 24th rated center, but keep in mind, there's less than half the centers than there are tackles typically that are graded, so that's, there's only so many. I mean, again, there's only one position for center and 2 positions for tackles, so you would think it'd be about half. So while being the 24th rated tackle will typically put you in about the top, around in the top quarter of eligible tackles for center, that'll sometimes put you in the bottom 10 of eligible centers. So definitely there's, it's a lot more impressive to be the 24th rated tackle than center. And there's not a lot of, Ryan Bates is the next best player at 41st, and then you have Connor McGovern, who's 65th, and Spencer Brown, who's 73rd. Now, it's also worth mentioning they did draft O'Cyrus Torrence, who I really liked coming out of college, I would assume I think at some point he'll play somewhere. I don't know where exactly, but I think at some point he'll play, as a guard at some point here. Also, just if you're thinking, hey, wait a second, Connor McGovern, isn't he a pretty good player for the Jets? No, this is a different Connor McGovern who was from the Cowboys, who played one season, had significant playing time, and wasn't overly great in that significant playing time. Also, this chart, this is going to be Spencer Brown's game in and game out PFF grades. This is, again, the guy who was the right tackle, who had the worst overall grade last year. But if you look at it, it's interesting because he had that stretch weeks 10, 11, and 12 when he had a grade of under 50 each in every game. But besides that stretch, he didn't have a single game where he dipped below 49 for the rest of it. He had one game where he was below 50. It was 49.2. So he was, while not good really at all, he was pretty consistently okay. I guess what I'm trying to say is he was never a guy you just straight up couldn't win with, which is at least somewhat promising. You'd like to be better than that, but if he is your weak link, it's not the end of the world. I think the issue is there could be a few weak links, which is why I'm a little bit concerned. So yeah, that's what I think about all this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.